Hello knife people, and thank you for tuning in to the video. Today we will be reviewing the old knife North F, which is this model. It is executed in CPM Magnacut, cryogenically heat treated. To go over the specs of the knife, I won't be doing that. I will just discuss real down-to-earth characteristics of the knife. So let's first talk about the blade. Even though you may think that this is a flat grind or saber grind, it is not. It is a convex starting all the way from the spine to the edge of the knife, and if it seems to have a tiniest micro bevel, that is, as you know, to increase the edge retention on the knife. It has this beautiful satin brushing. Here is the logo of the knife. Has a nice awl which is laser engraved, says old knife, and on the other side it says CPM Magnacut cryo, and then the name of the model, which is North F. As you can see from the visual of the knife, it is very reminiscent of a Scandinavian puukko, which is their traditional knife, and it follows through on the shape of the blade, with the exception of the grind, of course, because Scandi knives are not convex ground, and more so they are not ground all the way from the spine to the edge. Usually they will have a flat spine, and somewhere in the middle or 1/3 down it'll have what is called a Scandi grind. So this one in that sense is different. The shape of the handle, again, very reminiscent when you're looking this way. There are some other differences. Now Scandi knives will sometimes have this type of butt, or it may be a similar oval shape like this on the other end as well. There is no finger guard or finger choil here, which again is a characteristic of Scandi puukkos, as these knives are meant not for beginners but for daily users of knives. So you are expected to know how to hold the knife and how to use it, so that you don't paint what you're working on with blood. The blade is exceptional. The grinding and the sharpening out of the factory is exceptional, and I have zero negatives to say about it, only good things. It is sharp to my standards. Now there are people that like to splice one single hair on it, or do some extreme type of not testing really, but just showing how sharp it is. But there's always compromises. The more shallow the angle of the grind, the less edge retention it has, and that's exactly the reason why knives, whether they're convex or Scandi ground or V-edge, they will usually have a secondary micro bevel or micro edge. Again, it just makes the edge retention better, improves the edge retention. But for my needs, the knife is very sharp and it is consistent, which is another really good thing. Usually you will see, well, not usually, but sometimes you will see that the knife is sharper here, but as it goes out to the belly of the knife, it may have a different type of grind, different thickness right behind the edge, and it won't cut as well. On this example, as you can see, it has a very thin, narrow tip, which has its positives and negatives, obviously. But again, if you know how to use your knife to its limits, you should be fine. Plus, this is a super steel. It's an exceptionally good steel that was developed specifically for knives, not for other cutting tools, etc. So it's a knife-specific, quite tough steel, and working on wood, unless you're prying with this knife for any type of cutting tasks, I don't expect it to fail, and I won't be putting this under extreme tension. The knife costs somewhere between 250 and 270 USD. And you may actually find it difficult to get because it is a Russian-made knife, and there are, as you know, sanctions on Russian products, so you might find it difficult to get your hands on one. But if you do, you will not regret it, because this is an exceptional knife. Let's talk now about the handle. The idea, the design of the handle is beautiful. It is executed to the highest possible standard. The design of this knife is done by the owner of the company, the Old Knife, and that guy still works behind a grinder. There is a chance that he actually ground this specific blade as well. So it's not like he's the manager and owner and CEO only, but he also makes knives himself, and obviously has a team. They mostly make a wide range of high-end kitchen knives, but they also do some designs for bushcraft, for camping, chores, etc. The handle has a 3D milling on it, and has one of the best, if not the best, execution of a finger groove for a lateral hold, or some refer to this as a pinch hold. But obviously this is not a hard use knife, and it is for cleaning your meat, birds, fish, and for those tasks, for fine tasks, quite often you do need a pinch grip or lateral grip to get into the detailed work. It also has this texturing on the inside the finger groove. Again, exceptional. Everything is clean cut, very well made. There is no touching on the metal. The metal comes down, the tang is 3/4 of a tang, so it's not full, doesn't come all the way, or does not protrude, but it comes quite substantial to about here, which is more than enough. This is a G10 handle, so it is very robust and durable. And then the metal is fully enclosed on all sides, which means that you could actually cut electrical wire with this. But obviously don't do both wires at the same time. You cut one first, and then another place you cut the other, not too short. And I have no idea why you would be cutting electrical wire with a knife, but who knows. Anyway. The knife is a crazy cutter, but there are some drawbacks and things that I would like, I wouldn't like to change, because this is a very exquisite and well done handle, but in terms of use, it's a bit uncomfortable, and I want to discuss those points. First of all, even though it has very well-defined contouring, and it is thick in the right places and narrows in the right places. It's just overall a bit thin. Yeah, if you look at a puko knife, usually it will have, from the top view, it will have that shape, but if you turn around like this, it will also be a bit thicker. This is thin to my liking. A smaller hand, this will fit fine, but I don't think this is made for a smaller hand. This, I believe, is the larger version within the North family. They make different sizes. I went for this size, kind of universal, and it should be meant for an average hand. I use, my motorcycle gloves are large or XL, extra large, and this knife for me is not optimal. Not here necessarily, but in this area. Because this is a crazy cutter, you will just enjoy working with this knife, whether it's on wood, whether it's on meat. But when working, meat doesn't require much force, but when working with wood, I would have liked a bit more thickness in here. As I hold it here, you see how much space I have on this circumference. There's a lot of missed space here. And that results in just an awkward hold and a bit of discomfort while working with a knife for an extensive period. I've seen the owner, when he tests the knives, he wears a very thick glove. And I understand he does that because he tests the knives on rope. He makes several hundred cuts, and you know, your hand gets tired and it may get sweaty, etc. So he wears a glove usually, but most of the people that do bushcraft or kitchen work especially, you will not be wearing thick gloves. Maybe some plastic gloves, rubber gloves, but those are thin, right? So I would have liked a bit more girth up here, of course maintaining the contouring and everything. I love the finger groove, but yeah, a bit thicker would be much nicer. The other thing that I was surprised, because the guy clearly knows how to design a knife and how to execute it to the highest standard. So part of this is done by a 3D milling machine, but it is also done by hand. So all of these grinding and shaping on these sides, this is done by hand. And even though I don't have a gripe on the proportions, etc., it's done quite well on both sides. What surprises me is these ridges are a bit too sharp. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 kind of hot spots on the knife. This is easy to take care of. I will just take probably a 200 grit paper and then finish off with 400 and just go over these corners lightly until that sharp edges go away. I will do the same here, and I did several different grips and it doesn't really hurt. There's wide flat areas for your fingers to rest on, and that's all nice, but again, a bit of sharp corners here, and I will remedy that within, I don't know, 5 minutes probably. So I love the knife. I'm very impressed with the quality of execution. If this was a US made knife, it would probably be worth, I don't know, upwards of $400 probably, because I have high-end, high-quality US or European made knives, and none of them have this much detailing and this much work put into them. And obviously labor costs higher prices in the West than in Russia, so I think that is the difference. Now the knife is this is the most expensive version of this knife. Why I got it is because I do not have CPM Magnacut in any other blade. So I wanted this, plus it is cryogenically heat treated. So they do make the knife and the family of these knives. As I said, they have like 3 or 4 different sizes. Actually, not only the blade is different on those, but also the handle. So there is a wide variety. You should be able to find something that you like or prefer out of those. But long story short, they have different steels, and the prices of the knives will start somewhere around $120 upwards to $300. They also make exclusive knives that are even more expensive than this, limited runs, etc. As far as I know, this is not a limited run. Now this brand also, just like their handle execution is unique, they also have very unique sheaths. I like a lot of things about these sheaths, mostly that it is very simplistic and very compact. I don't like huge sheaths. Sometimes they will have these pinholes on both sides, so it's like a sandwich rather than one folded over piece of Kydex. I like this version much better than that, just because it is lighter, it is more compact, and I just don't like excessive things and unnecessarily sized things. There are some drawbacks, actually quite a few on the sheath, but let me first touch on the positives. It has a huge drainage hole, but it's not like a drainage hole, but rather the whole thing is much wider than the spine of the blade. So this we would call a huge drainage hole, but it's shaped like, usually what you would call a hole. But this is just the same shape continues through, and then it is cut off. What that does is it helps you maintain this beautiful satin brushing, because it is not supposed to be touching on the sheath when you sheath the knife. Unfortunately, when I did receive this, and I have a short clip which I will insert here of how the sheath came from the factory. Now, as you saw on that clip which I took before modifying the sheath, the knife rattled all over the place. When you would sheath it, it would move up and down, it would move sideways. So the whole idea of the sheath not touching your blade was not working properly. So what I did was, I didn't touch this side, I just reheated the retention point. So I reheated that, and as you can see, it has improved, but it will still, if you can hear that, it still has a tiny rattle. I then added this locking mechanism. Here there was another one of these eyelets. I took that out and put a screw in it, but also did this notch. So right now it is in open position, but if I slide it up, that brings these lips together, and now the knife almost doesn't rattle, but it is much better than the original. Now also what I did not like, and it surprises me because I repeat, the guy clearly knows what he's doing, but life's not perfect. So this thumb ramp, I added that. What the sheath looked like originally, again, you saw in that clip, it was just melted and kind of bent out, and it had a sharp ridge around here. It was not bent out all the way to where it would not be digging into your thumb. So what I did was I cut that out, and I made what I prefer as a thumb ramp, and this is now quite comfortable. The other reason why I don't like that type of execution, where they kind of pull out the entire sheath section rather than making cuts and a ramp like that. Why I don't like that is because if you notice here, there is a shiny section. That's almost unavoidable because you have to melt the kydex significantly and then you have to stretch it out to make that shape. And what that does is aesthetically, visually, I don't like when you have this rough texture here without any shine to it, and then on the ramp side you clearly see that it is shiny because it has been melted. So I didn't like that. Yet another thing I don't like is the loop. Don't get me wrong, I love leather loops. I like leather sheaths in general, but the way this is executed I didn't like. First of all, it came with different screws, and those screws were protruding. It actually came with this screw, and I don't know if you're able to see, but this pops out and it's way higher than these flat screws. So because this touches straight against your pants, it just would rub against and maybe even be uncomfortable. I moved it to the original screw. I moved to the sheath that I did make for the knife. Why? Is overall when I did these changes, this sheath is more than sufficient and satisfies my needs. But when I put it on for one day, I was making barbecue, actually offset Texas style pulled pork barbecue, for those that know what that is. And for the whole day I was wearing this on the side, and when I took off the sheath I saw that it was bent up like badly, deformed. The belt loop was deformed awkwardly. So once I noticed that, I decided, okay, I just need to make my own sheath. The other thing is, this is fixed. And I have belt loops with single screw where they're dangler style, just like this. Now this is plastic obviously, but you can do the same with leather. I've made it where I put leather on each side of the kydex, screw it down, works beautifully. But the benefit to this is when you sit down, you can do that instead of digging into or pulling up on your belt, which this doesn't do. This is just fixed. The other thing is when you're taking the knife out, when this is on your side, this is harder to do rather than when the knife is on my belt. This way I just rotate and take it out sideways, much easier to do. Putting into the sheath, probably easier vertically, but when you're extracting the knife, I prefer this solution. Also, I was able to just make my own preferences when constructing a new sheath for this. So let's talk about that sheath now. And I also have a video actually where I'm making that sheath, but since we're reviewing the knife, what I want to mention, and this is very important, right? Customer service, customer support. For me, whether it's a knife or any other product, I pay great attention to how the owner or the company approaches customer service. It's not just, oh, I sold the knife to you and then the rest is your headache. No, you should respond. I purchased this from a retailer, so when I got it, I sent that video of the Redley sheath to the retailer saying this is how I received it, paid almost $300 for the knife, please take responsibility and send me a proper sheath. Zero response. This is a Russian company. Now I gave a few days, they didn't respond. Then I contacted the knife maker themselves. Same message, no response. That's very disappointing. I didn't expect that because they seem to be, well, not the retailer necessarily, but the knife maker seems to be down-to-earth guy, but maybe he didn't even read the email. I mean, maybe they have some admin managing customer communication, and they're lacking in that department clearly. So I was disappointed, and you should also expect some flaws that you may not be able to resolve with the retailer or with the knife maker. You will have to solve this yourself. So I made my own sheath. Now I followed the same principle as the original sheath. As you see, there's not much difference in the dimensions. I did make this section a bit higher to grip more of the handle to enable better retention, sturdier retention. The other difference between the sheaths is that this is 0.8 inches or 0.08 inches thick, and this is 0.06 inch thick kydex. So even though it is lighter, it kind of well, it doesn't have enough strength, let's say, to hold the knife sturdy, and this is the only place where it grips the knife. It does not grip on the blade, so obviously you need even more tension here. So now, see, difficult, almost impossible to extract without opening. So when you open that, now the other difference, let's talk some safety. It's one thing that the knife doesn't have a finger groove, but if you hand this to somebody, now I know not to hold the knife like this when extracting the blade, but not everybody does, right? And even I make mistakes sometimes. So to avoid that, what I usually do is I put some sort of safety notch, safety point on my sheaths. So this one has it, you know not to pass this point. So if I was to hold it here and extract the knife, as you can see, I can cut myself. You see that? I love my fingers. I don't want to cut my fingers. So in this sheath, you hold it up to here, and there's no way to cut yourself because the knife just doesn't get there. The other thing is, if you look at the difference, this has a significantly wider gap where I brought these lips together as much as I could, so the knife doesn't pop out here when you're extracting it. The lock followed, of course, because this is just, you know, safety. I maintained the simplistic design, and not necessarily because this has a simplistic design. As you can see, I have even less eyelets. These are not necessary. If I was to make this knife, just because it is thinner kydex, maybe I would just do 1, 2 eyelets and then this retainer screw. But because I was working with thicker kydex, this is plenty enough and sufficient. Even if it did not have this, you're gonna find it quite difficult to bend this open. This is thick and sturdy kydex. This is plenty, just 1 eyelet on the bottom, and then the retaining screw, and looks very simple, to my eyes elegant as well. Have a huge drainage hole just to kind of imitate, and actually the area may even be bigger on this hole than this, but you know, plenty to wash out your sheath. Also, I put this, I paid like $5 maybe 5 years ago, and just had this belt loop. Very easy to use, besides being the dangler or rotatable belt loop. And the other benefit is, for this guy, you don't have to take off your belt to put the knife on, obviously, because of this ability, which the leather sheath does not have. So long story short, the knife, as you can hear, does not rattle without this tension, but you can even do that, and then it just becomes impossible to take the knife out. Also, I have a larger, I was able, because I had more material here, a very comfortable thumb ramp. So it's much easier to pop this off than the original sheath, which ended up with a smaller ramp again because I didn't have enough space. So on this I kind of have to push a harder part of my thumb almost to the bone, whereas here it's a larger piece and I can just push with my softer part of the thumb. So overall, this to me was a necessity. Of course, you can use the knife like this without any modifications, but it just rattles and it's uncomfortable to wear, etc., etc. So all knife, I will make sure to share this video review with you. And even though I did not benefit and enjoy your high quality customer service, hopefully others will, and I hope that you listen to some feedback. And please test your knives before sending them out to your retailers, especially when you're pricing them at $250 and $300. This is just unacceptable, especially knowing your high standards. That was unacceptable. So that's basically it. I will not be changing anything on. There is nothing to improve on the blade. The blade is magnificent. The handle, as I said, I would have liked a bit thicker girth on here, but this handle is done to such a high standard that I don't want to take it off and make my own, simply because I don't have a 3D mill and I won't be able to replicate these grooves and texturing, which I very much like. All I will do is, as I said, I will just take away these sharp edges on these four corners here as well, and that's basically it. Do I recommend the knife? By all means, I do. I was very impressed, but recently I came across some news and videos of Survive knives having severe problems with CPM Magnacut. I tried to do my research and kind of listen to both sides. The Niagara, the supplier, it's called Niagara Falls or something, that supplied Survive knives with Magnacut blanks, if I understand correctly. And there were some issues where they would just break. There were defects inside the steel, not throughout, but certain points that would give it a weak point and they would break, and that kind of freaked me out because this is also CPM Magnacut. CPM is a company, and I hope I won't have that issue, because the owner of Survive Knives was saying I can get CPM from European suppliers, even though I will have to be paying a bit higher prices. But it's one thing to say I can get Magnacut, but when you're specifying CPM, that tells me that there are so basically the steel is made in CPM factory, and then decarbonizing was happening in the Niagara Falls company, where the Survive Knives owner claims, and I don't know whether that's true or not, but claims that these defects were happening during that process. So if anybody knows, please comment, tell me whether I should expect any defects in this blade because it is CPM Magnacut, and whether those problems apply to all CPM Magnacut steels. So that will be it. You will be seeing this knife out on my outdoor adventures and camping and cooking videos that are to come soon. So stay tuned. If you found the video interesting or informative, please give it a like and subscribe to be notified of future videos in similar context. Thank you very much and have a good day.